What you doing this after the new Friday and iNewsWire? Man, oh man. Got the Mississippi Miracle, Trump and Musk getting back together. Lots of good things going on. Another forfeit in the Harupa Valley volleyball saga and AB Hernandez, the boys competing on that, but a jewelry theft investigation. Got a rash of smash and grabs. We'll get into this later, but here's the latest from the NBC Bay Area report. Here we go.
This is the moment more than 20 masked and hooded people stormed into Heller Jewelers in broad daylight Monday. Some of them armed with guns, others with crowbars. Police say the mob then helped themselves to $1 million worth of fine jewelry.
When they went in, they basically took over the store. They went to all the jewelry display cases and began just smashing the display cases at will, using the crowbars and the pickaxes, and basically taking whatever jewelry was available.
When the store door closed behind them, police say it automatically locked, trapping the group inside. A witness captured the robbers firing shots to escape.
It was a very dangerous situation. They did fire multiple rounds through the door, which caused the door to shatter, and they were able to then push the glass out and exit.
So they blew the door completely out to get out. They're using their stealing trucks to drive into businesses and destroy them for $250 and cause 250 grand worth of damages. Stole all the electrical stuff out of the wells down there in LA, the oil wells. Probably got, again, $500 worth of copper. It's cost them $250,000 to fix it, fix the electricity and all the damage they did. We got to crack down harder on these jackass criminals that are running around. We're going to get into this in depth. The Mississippi Miracle. They're going back to the old way of education where if you don't make a grade level, you get to do it again. Voila. Mississippi was last in reading, number 50. Now they're in the top 10 by just doing it the old school way.
The Mississippi Miracle, starting in 2010, was focusing on the fundamentals and dedicating the time to those fundamentals. The demographics of Mississippi's school children, which tell you that would be close to almost impossible. They've gone from dead last to number one.
What he didn't tell you about that, about the demographics, is Mississippi has the largest black population in all 50 states. And when he said, this is just like the racism that went down at Garfield High when they said Jaime Escalante must have been cheating and the kids were cheating when they were learning calculus because they're Mexican. But anyway, they did it under Republican governorship, Republican leadership, center right, free market principles. Hey, sometimes you got to put a boot up kids' ass or your employees or whatever to get them to do what they need to be doing. Enough of this LGBTQ, gay crap, da 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 da. Everything's Alice in Wonderland. We're going to kiss it and make it all go away. You know what? Well, it works sometimes, but most of the time it doesn't. Time we say it like it is and call out the racism where it is. Oh, you know, you wouldn't expect it. You wouldn't expect them black folk being able to read. Holy bleeping cow, sometimes some of the stuff you see. And then they want to call people that look like me and wear a Dick Dastardly shirt a racist. Holy cow. Donald J. signs a new memo targeting left-wing violence and those who fund it. He's targeting political violence. So this is on Fox. All of you that watch Fox, if you think you're center right or freedom and liberty type, you're toiling right into the left wing loon stupidity. Political violence and those who fund it should suffer the consequences. Violence, not free political speech, violence. Let's get to what the reality of the situations are. It's really something else. Good news out of a very stark tragedy. Senate declares October 14, 2025, National Day of Remembrance of Charlie Kirk. That is his birthday. The recently political assassinated. Talk about the ultimate in political violence. So it was great the Senate declared his birthday coming up here in what, 2 or 3 weeks, a National Day of Remembrance for Charlie Kirk. It will be a sad, but a there hopefully we're going to have some good come out of the Charlie Kirk political assassination. And this is it. Here you see, and we're going to have an example of this right here in the Inland Empire. But Turning Point USA, the organization he founded, has Charlie Kirk from the mirror throwing out the MAGA hat to a young man. And that really says it all. It's up to us now to pick up what Charlie started and keep that shirt, the last shirt he wore, freedom, and the little poster that should be, every kid should have that on their notebook, backpacks, and wearing a freedom shirt to school. We've got a lot of things to solve, but we got the ability to do it. Just as in this, here's a group in Orange Crest, California, which is right there by Woodcrest, in between Moreno Valley and Riverside area, right in there, right by the Air Force Base, by March Air Force Base. Look at that, the new Turning Point chapter in Orange Crest. Look at all the young men and women that gathered for the first meeting out there. Yes, our future is bright if we keep the memory of Charlie Kirk going. If all those young men and women take that to heart and they they pick up the mantle. It's now them to pick up that desire, dedication, and all around not give up like Charlie Kirk had. If we do that, our future is not very bright, extremely bright. Nothing will be able to defeat us at all for any reason. Quarterback of the San Francisco 49ers, Brock Purdy. I may have to start rethinking my ban on the no ball sports. He refused to wear the alphabet soup, whatever, pride, this and that, no racism and stuff. He said, I won't bow to any woke agenda, not today, not ever, no patch, no slogan, no pressure from the league or the media will ever change what I stand for. My values aren't negotiable, and I refuse to compromise who I am just to fit in. Now there's a dude with balls. That's a man being a man. We're not doing stupid anymore. Congratulations to Brock Purdy. He didn't stun the NFL like it is. He's just doing what he was put on this earth to do, as being part of the retarded half of the population We're just not doing stupid anymore. Case closed. End of story. We're moving on. Some of the really troubling things that we've been going on to. Patriot High had to forfeit their game, or did forfeit their game, against AB Hernandez, the boy on the girls' volleyball team at Harupa Valley High here in the Inland Empire. This stuff is just getting completely out of control. When are these school districts, school boards? Why aren't you up there, Tony Thurman? Rube, you got his cell phone number. You're bragging to me about that. Why don't you call that dirty SOB up there and tell him, why don't you fix this so we ain't got this problem up here? And every other one of you superintendents and school board members, get off your dead frickin' asses and do something. It's disgusting what's been going on. It's beyond, and especially the men and the school boards and the superintendent like Rube or Brent Lee or CJ Johnson. You got no frickin' balls. You're not men. You don't stand up like Brody for what you should be. You're cowering in the corner because you're weak POSs. Prove me wrong. Sit in here beside me and prove me wrong. You won't. You haven't. Let's get after it, boys. 57% of Americans approve of President Donald J. Trump. That was a Rasmussen. That was a one-day deal. Rasmussen's deal's been about 50-50 for the past couple of weeks. They had, because you get up and down days. They do. Rasmussen does a daily poll of about 400 people on do you approve of the president. They've done it they're the only ones that do it. Gallup gave up when they had that bad deal, but that's a story for a different day. One day, I think it was not yesterday, but the day before, it was 57-43 approved, disapproved. I think it was 55-45 yesterday. We'll see what it is today. But it is true on a one-day average, and the White House put this out, and they were absolutely correct. The Rasmussen poll, I think on Wednesday, showed 57% of Americans approved of Donald J. Trump, only 43% disapproved. And the left are going out to placate. Oh, it didn't say well, it did. I mean, if you want to take that one day, that's what it was. Stick it. Deal with it. Here's the numbers. There they are from Rasmussen. So it's not fake news. AI doesn't know what it's talking about. Vaya caramba. Musk and Trump were on the trolling train. See Musk with the troll. Elon posted both of these. And FAFO, maybe that's referring to Comey, but who knows? Got a lot of interesting things to do. 200 J6, remember they only told us only 10 FBI agents and then 15 or 16 informants were there, only 25. Oh, just guess what the number is. Stay tuned. We're going to have a whole bunch of fun with this stuff here on this Faster Than You Friday. Yes, we are. We're going to have a lot of fun with this one. Remember, and that's where I want to pick up. They said there was 10 FBI on J6, 2021. Trump has the big rally, 40, 50,000 people show up. They're going to count the election, do the election certification on that in the House of Representatives. The whole shebang breaks out. Remember, we heard there were 10 FBI agents, and first it was 25, but then there was only 25 or 26, but it was only 10 actual FBI agents and 15 or 16 of their informants, which what the hell is that? It broke yesterday. John Solomon, Mike Benz put it out. Holy bleep. Mike Benz uses the word S. 274 FBI agents in the crowd on January 6th. More than 250 undercover FBI agents in plain clothes secretly in and around the crowd, and that's just FBA, not including DHS undercovers like the ones setting up Jeremy Brown Fedsurrections. John Solomon broke the story, breaking bombshell 274 agents sent to the Capitol. Many later complained they were political pawns. 12 times more just FBI agents. Remember, oh no, nobody else was, no CIA, no Department of Homeland Security. No, we just had like 10 agents and a few of their informants running around. And Trump didn't, and da, 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 da. When Trump told Nancy Pelosi, you need the National Guard, we'll put 10,000 troops in here. And she said no. Nobody's hauling her ass in front of Congress talking about this. The amount of like COVID, Comey, it's beyond the pale. These guys set up. It isn't, well, we went back and we're going, maybe there were 30 or 35 there. Sorry, we just, we forgot, we forgot. Fred didn't check in. He was over at the coffee house having coffee before that and forgot to press his end button or something. Okay, we'll go for that. We missed 3 or 4. You didn't miss it by 12 times. What the hell were they doing? 274 just FBI agents trolling around? Are they the ones opening the doors and opening the gates and letting them in? Were they giving the instructions? In my mind, legally, if they open the gates and let you in, if you let somebody in your house, they're not trespassing. I mean, as far as I know, no lawyer give legal advice. My understanding is if you don't post or have a fence or something, post no trespassing signs, or somebody knocks on your door, hey, can I use the phone? And you let them in, and they subsequently trash the house, well, they weren't trespassing. They may be, be arrested for destruction of property and on, but you let them in your home. They didn't bust the door down, they didn't bust the windows down. No, a couple of them did. Most people, they were just the officials, cops, FBI, DC police, or whomever just opened the door and say, hey, come on in. Because most of the J6 guys were popped on trespassing charges. Now, if you were in there destroying computers or destroying property or stuff, now that's a separate deal. But what is it, the reports, and I don't remember, but like the grandma that got 30 months in jail for just walking in and not, just walking in the Capitol building and wandering around. And they found him guilty of trespassing. Well, again, everything. Why is it that 111% of our government officials are just frickin' lying to us all the time? And then they wonder why we don't trust them. Or we roll our eyes, or we expect that they are lying to us all the time. It's really, at times, doing that. No matter which side you are on the J6 issue, if they did nothing wrong, to your Benny Johnson, Liz Cheney, pencil neck shift or whoever, screaming to your top of your bloody lungs. No, it was not an insurrection. Mike Benz is correct. It was a Fedsurrection. The whole deal before where the bombs were there in front of the DNC headquarters and stuff, and nobody said anything about it. And the whole Ray Epps thing. He was there with that, and then he's in telling everybody to go in and all that stuff and chanting and inciting the crowd. It's really, I hope they bust James Comey's ass. And that's just on that first charge. Remember, John Mitchell, and I go back to the Watergate days. John Mitchell, the Attorney General for Richard E. Nixon, as Archie Bunker used to call him. Go look it up. A quarter of the country watched All in the Family on Sunday night. A quarter. That'd be the equivalent of about 80 million, 85 million people. You only get that at the Super Bowl. Watched All in the Family. At one time, there were no recordings or anything. You either watched it or you didn't. You would come 8 o'clock on Sunday night or whenever. You either were sitting in front of the tube for half an hour or you missed it. All at the same time, quarter of the country watching that show. But back in those days, and that's in the same genre, John Mitchell in the Watergate deal was Attorney General, got 18 months in prison for doing what Jim Comey is accused of today. And whether he gets off on it a technicality, I don't think any, even semi-honest looking at what's going on. His other McCabe and the other guy are saying, yeah, he told us to leak the material. And then he goes to Congress and the Ted Cruz one. And I think the other's the Lindsey Graham, but the Ted Cruz one is the most obvious. No, I didn't. No, never leaked anything in my entire life. Bolton and Brennan and Hillary and the whole Biden, Obama. There should be indictments coming out. They should have, the grand jury should be open, well, like Circle K or 7-Eleven used to be, 24/7, 365. Should be just, they should be, okay, 8-hour shifts. We got three grand juries. We'll have Monday through Thursday, and then Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, we'll have another crew that comes in and goes boom, boom, boom. That's how many frickin' indictments should be going on. I tell you, we're in one very, let's say, per se unusual situation. We should be looking at one of the all-time biggest Renaissance economic expansions. If we could just get rid of this deadwood, corruption, people putting roadblocks, trying to just protect their little interest, we would be so much farther advanced. We will, and we in the future, if we will start now, in memory of Charlie Kirk, which he was 1,000% behind. Just get the stupid stuff out of the way and let people breathe a little bit. not constantly have your thumb on every aspect of everybody's life. Uh, That just winds up in disaster for everybody, except the 1.3% that got everything, got all the control, all the wealth, everything. You're just a slave. The oligarchs and the slave masters and the dictators and the tyrants are the only ones that win in these totalitarian systems. The rest of us are eating S. And we shouldn't be doing that. You know, we should get back, and we're going to get into the education part here, the Mississippi Miracle, and what we should be doing, and what we're not, what we did, what we stopped doing. Why human beings' capacity to believe the lie and stop doing what's working for the vast majority of the people is sometimes incredible. That's why when the San Fran quarterback said, you know, I ain't wearing no alphabet soup stupid patch. Goes against my principles. I'm not doing it. We're finally getting some stand-up people coming in. And again, like I said, I'm gonna have to rethink my boycott of all the stuff of the Charlie Kirks, the at Yankee Stadium, Bristol, Tennessee, the football stadiums all acknowledged or had a moment of silence for Charlie Kirk. Now Brody's come out and said, I ain't wearing no stupid patch. NASCAR's talking about going back to the old point system. When are we going to get back to the days when you could have fun at the races or wherever you went? You could enjoy yourself for a weekend, just say, hey, I'm going to unwind and just let her rip. One of the nice things, this came as a surprise. Vice President J.D. Vance surprises Lexington by visiting Richard Childress Racing on Wednesday. I missed that yesterday, but we got her in today. Good job, J.D. It's about time we had people in our government that can actually relate to the people. We got a long ways to go here in California. No on 50. We'll be getting hot and heavy into that. I think after next week, voting will start. I think it's October 4th or 5th. She's coming up in about 10 days or so. At least we got our, and I didn't agree with Arnold a lot, but at least he's on our side on that, and Charles Munger. And that this is a showdown in California. This will be the preview if we got a shot. Start peeling the pendulum back in California in 2026. We can defeat 50. And I hope Trump gets to the paper ballot thing, at least on the federal elections. That's going to do so much. That's going to do absolutely so much to have free and fair elections that we haven't had for such a long, long time. And that's going to be one of the big, that's
All
a
right.
big,
Sorry, Roy. We're about 10 seconds out.
and getting on that. No problem. Oh, here we go.
Here we go.
I met here in a few seconds. Twitch.com.
IE Newswire Daily is on the air.
The following is a paid program. Views and claims expressed are those of the program producer and are not endorsed by this station. Opinions expressed are not necessarily those of radio station KMET, its management, employees, or affiliates.
There's Southeast Alive guitar music that comes on every Monday through Friday live at 5:30 on the Mighty Met 1490 AM, broadcasting all over the Inland Empire. And the aforementioned AM band, join your vast video audience in the Uplifting Network, Rumble. Check us out, subscribe. Type an iNewsWire on Rumble. Trying to do my best real Don Steele imitation, which I'm doing very poorly, but go run that on start page. Go. Boss Radio 93, the real Don Steele. Now there was a DJ. Back when radio had some real characters to it. A lot of stuff going on today. The trolling of Trump and Musk on the Comey deal. I'm glad they're back. We posted that yesterday. They're going to work together on AI for the government. They seem to have their little tiff patched back together, so that's good news that we had coming on. The smash and grabs that are coming up just are absolutely ridiculous. I mean, I think 30 of them, they've been keeping them under the radar. Like 20 or 30 of them have happened in the past couple months up and around, but they've been like keeping them on the lowdown, up there in the Bay Area. Hell, they blowed in. Then the security door closed them in. They just blowed the security door through and then came back out. 20 or 30 of them, $1 million worth of jewels out the door. Man, we got to get society back. Donald Trump signed a memo against political violence. And I'm sure the kooks on the left will be apoplectic because that's how they keep you in fear and keep control of you. It's absolutely imperative. We can debate, but if we turn into violence, we'll be a banana republic faster than you think. Turning Point USA put this up. This is Charlie Kirk through the mirror, throwing a MAGA hat to a young man. We got to pick up the mantle of Charlie. And it's up to us. One of the great things, a new chapter in Orange Crest, California. They're in southeast Riverside, right by Moreno Valley, right by March Air Force Base. You see all the young people there. I call them kids. All the young men and women there. How many people there? 40, 50? The new chapter for Turning Point USA, and they're exploding all over the nation. In fact, every high school in Oklahoma now has a Turning Point USA chapter. San Francisco quarterback Brock Purdy said, I ain't wearing the alphabet soup patch. I'm going to have to rethink. I'm starting to rethink my ban on the no balls game. We're starting to see with the Charlie Kirk and the stadiums and stuff recognizing the moment of silence. More of the players, Brock Purdy, the latest, say, not doing stupid. That's against my principles. I'm not compromising. Stick it. It's about time we got to men starting to wear their balls. Another Patriot High canceled their volleyball game, high school, against Ruth Valley High with A.B. Hernandez, the boy that's on the girls' team, and we all know that. When, and we're going to get to this, when are you school board members, especially you men, going to take your panties off and start doing something about this? You can't even do something about boys playing on the girls' team in their locker rooms and their bathrooms. No wonder their education sucks. And the education you are delivering to our kids sucks. Your performance sucks. We're going to add further evidence to this. But we played the initial clip and go back and watch about a couple minutes in. But there's something called the Mississippi Miracle in education. Mississippi was last in reading 15 years ago. Now, we don't have to, we should have to, but third grade reading, math, science, you can tell the incarceration rate is going to be in your community, your state, your country, by what's happening at the third grade reading level. You can tell if it's going to be high if they can't read and they can't do math and they don't know science. It's going to be very low if the third grade students know how to read, write, and do arithmetic. But is this guy the racist dude? Because Mississippi, and then go look at the front clip, Mississippi has the biggest black population. He says, well, based on demographics, he didn't have guts enough to say, well, because there's a lot of black people here, they can't read. You'd never think they could do that. Again, that's just like I said before. That's like Garfield High, Jaime Escalante, 40 years ago, when he taught the kids down there calculus and they're kicking ass all over, top scores. And they're saying, how do you do that? It must be cheat. The Mexicans are cheating. They couldn't do that. Got the same. Here we are for the racism is not Roy wearing the Dick Dastardly t-shirt and our kind. The racists are the ones shouting the racists. The blacks and the browns and all you supporting the illegals and doing that and trying to get ICE agents killed and informants going out there as informants and everything, endangering their kids, their lives, their kids and their families. You are the biggest racists in the history of the frickin' world. On top of that, you're destroying our kids' education. And it can turn around like that. I've said this 87, many others have said it 87 million other times at school board meetings, on these airwaves, in conferences and everything else. And it just gets ignored, except in Mississippi. They turned this thing around almost instantly. They did it in Florida and Tennessee and Louisiana. The main principle, and this was over 50 years ago when I was in third grade. And I think it was in the second grade out here, but by the third grade, practically every school in California, United States, everywhere, if you weren't a grade level, they might pass you up in the first two, say, okay, maybe we need to work on you. It stopped at the third grade everywhere. If you were not at grade level, if you did not get a C average on your report card, C average, 70%, not the C average today where it could be 25% or whatever stupid number you want, so to make you look good, to justify your $180,000 prorated if you work to fill your teachers in California, twice what they made 50 years ago when I was there, and they were outperforming you so bad. It isn't even funny. You guys are total abject failures. School board members, administrators, teachers. Because it can turn around just this quick. Here's some on the Mississippi Miracle.
Published the studies that said this is how you should be teaching reading, right? So we talk about, the Mississippi Miracle, which a lot of people talk about as, wow, they did such a great job turning reading around. It wasn't a miracle. It was actually by virtue of great leadership by Carrie Wright there and by the governor, by the Republican governor there, to say, what's important here is to do what works and to practice that. And, I'm glad that we have a department that helps to support that work. So
all we have to do is what's right. Again, the main tenet behind the Mississippi Miracle Besides teaching like phonics or kids how to, how to really read, like math, 2 + 2 = 4. Not, if I think, I woke up today and, I stubbed my toe and I just can't concentrate today. So it may be 432, but I don't know. And the teacher says, oh, well, that's exactly right because you just attempted to answer the question. Instead of putting a red mark on there and saying Johnny or Janie, that's not the right answer. All they implemented, the main tenet was if you did not read after the third grade, if you got to the fourth grade and you weren't reading at fourth grade, let's say you got to the three, let's say you barely squeaked by the third grade, or you screwed off in the fourth grade or something, and you didn't that, well, you know what? You're going to repeat that grade over again. How many times you want to do this?
Mentioned all of the hundreds of millions of dollars of research that went into the science of reading. You're right, we wouldn't have had those raw materials. We only know about it because of Emily Hanford and her sold the story. So there is a disconnect where IES had become a bit of a bubble where it would create all kinds of great materials, but it never got converted into the practitioners, where most teachers still are not taught the science of reading in their professional development to get a credential.
That's because we have dumbed down education. You can get a teaching credential, like you can pass grades just by, well, not even, it used to be you just had to show up. Now you don't even have to show up. If you pay XYZ on the net, advertising university, they're on there all the time. Yeah, you can do this all online, da da da. You can do it. You can have a doctorate degree in 3 months. Just send us 50K, and yeah, we'll send you a couple over paperwork, and we'll say, yeah, Roy's a great guy. Here you are. Here's your doctorate, Dr. Roy. I could be dumber than a tin can. And these cats will have absolutely no business training or teaching school. The administrators have no business in the most part. They don't give a crap. If they did, why does the performance keep going? Why is the crime syndicate, Moreno Valley Unified, and all these, they're not improving? And again, "52%. 52% of the black students in Mississippi are at grade level. It's like 20 something nationwide, and here in California, I think it's in the teens here in Moreno Valley. People will rise to the expectations you set for them. Your kids will rise to the expectations you, the parent, set for them. You, the school, set for them. If you're going to have them 35 hours a week, then they're going to rise to the expectations you set for them. And if all you do is coddle them and do this and everything is okay, and the parents don't demand anything or do anything, that's it. Look, they had this whole thing. Like the whole deal about boys in kindergarten and that. They said it's really like when I went to kindergarten, kindergarten was only half a day, and only about 2/3 of the kids went to it. I mean, you were mandatory to go by first grade, but they're finding the studies, this whole TK con, useless. By the time they get to sixth grade, most of the TK students are doing worse than that because they said kids need to be kids. Parents should be teaching, but you know what the reason why? Well, that's racist because only the affluent families families can afford not to send their kids to kindergarten. Which gets to my point. This whole TK or Gavin Newsom, besides their control, they're daycare centers. You don't want to go out and earn enough, or you want to accept from your government, or you think your government's going to take it from somebody else and give it to you, instead of when you had the ability as a parent to do that, to provide for your kids, to provide for their meals. You didn't have to rely on somebody else. What is it, 80% of Moreno Valley kids are eligible for lunches paid for by us, not the parents? And the whole excuse, oh, if they're not hungry, why don't we create a society like we had, where parents had the ability to do that? They didn't have to do that. They didn't have to have somebody watch their kids all day, where they were out there just barely trying to scratch a living out. Just because your jurisdiction, if you're a school board member, is a school board member, I've said it, other people have said it, go look it up. Just because other things have an effect, the city, the county, the state, the federal government, all because you're all taking money from them. And the person that gives you something, this person could take it away, whether it's the school lunch or the funding for the special ed kids or whatever it is. Books and pencils, they can shut off the electric. If they're giving you extra money to build facilities, they can cut that off. When you're relying on somebody else. When they say, oh, we're getting a grant from the federal government, we get federal government funding, you lost money. And if you can't get that concept, if you didn't learn that concept, you should not be a school board member or a city council member or a chief executive officer or a superintendent or working in any official leadership position in government, because you got no brains, or you're evil, or whatever. You're incompetent to do the job. And quit pushing the frickin' racism again. No excuses. If black kids can learn to read in Mississippi, they can learn to read in Moreno Valley, frickin' California, Fargo, North Dakota, Mobile, Alabama, Bear, Vermont, Seattle, Washington, or any frickin' point in between. So if you're pushing that crap or this and making excuses, then you are the racist. Period. Just like the guy who's on there. Well, by demographics, you wouldn't think that. Again, that's the same. That tweaks my head harder than anything. I was out of school mostly. That reminds me of Garfield High and Jaime Escalante. Well, the Mexican kids, they can't learn calculus. How could they be beating everybody practically in the state? They got to be cheating. Yeah, that's it. They're cheating. They ain't got the mental capacity to learn how to do calculus. But now we just make every excuse that, oh, we need more money and all this. Go stick it. You're getting 24 grand per student, TK through 12, 300% more than you did just a scant 10 years ago at 8K per kid. Teachers are prorated, making twice as much as they did 50 years ago. And you're producing maybe 2% of the results that they did, because their credential meant something. They actually had to go to class to learn how to be a frickin' teacher, instead of learning about diversity, equity, and inclusion and getting preached to by Barbara DeAngelis or whatever her stupid name is, and her stupid books and all that crap that old Twinkle Toes over there was passing out to all you guys. It's beyond, sometimes it's beyond frustrating. But what gives me hope is like those kids, young men and women, who are there at Orange Crest here in the IE. Look at all the new Turning Point USA chapter members right here in the IE, just in one little spot. That we're getting to that. They're picking up what Charlie Kirk is tossing through that mirror. For those of you in KMET, Charlie's in a mirror tossing the MAGA hat to a very young man with the poster of freedom and the American flag. That's what this is all about. And as unfortunate as it is of the Charlie Kirk assassination attempt, but if it got Elon and Donald J back together, it got more people like the younger set to pay attention to what's going to happen. What's happening now is going to affect their future. As Charlie Kirk would have said, he would pay that price every day and 9 times on Sunday. He would pay the price that he did a couple of weeks ago. And if Charlie's willing to do that, and you're here still on the top side of the grass enjoying life here on Earth, I mean, what's your excuse? Will be fun. I don't know. But today we're getting into definitely into springtime. The sun hadn't even come out all day today. First time in what? Who knows? Can't remember back that far the last time there was a no Sunday. But winter's a coming. Lots of things are looking in the positive direction. We're just hopefully we're just turning the corner. We're not going to let the momentum drop or think somebody else is going to do it, because they're probably not, or they will not. It really boils down to what each and every one of us does. And that will make a better time for all of us. We'll cut a little bit of the locale news. Marietta cops route and cut busted a attempted robbery and possession of firearm arrests. A good job on that. Cargo theft awareness informational meeting Wednesday, October 15th in the city of Chino. So mark that on your calendars if you want to do that. At least 69 locations that serve final coffees and scones on Saturday will close. Look at the list of those who are going to be closing and why. K9 Bosco from Hemet says, happy faster than you. Friday out there, so happy back at you, Bosco. A pastor who was accused of hiring a hitman heads to trial here in the IE. It's one of the really sad situations that's going on in our college. With Cal State San Bernardino's physician assistant program fails to launch. Man. DUI crash in Cherry Valley leaves a teen driver seriously injured. That's from Beaumont News Service. Almost $1 billion, 11-story expansion, 220 surgical beds and 54 ICU units are coming to Riverside Community Hospital. So that's some good news there. San Bernardino gets a grand theft arrest. Grand Theft Auto arrest, our Mimi of the day. Just out of curiosity, does Tylenol have the same effect on pregnant men? Oh boy. Glen Helen's going to have the Champ Off Road out there, out at Glen Helen, out there in the north end, out in the Lytle Creek area of that. So if you're, it's a fun thing you can go do out this weekend. I think they had practice and stuff today. I think racing is today or tomorrow, I should say, out there at Glen Helen. So go check that out if you so desire on the racing scene. Of course, CRA Sprint Cars will be at Paris Auto Speedway this Saturday night. So that's another venue you can go out if you don't want to go out to Glen Helen. Check that one out. Spin again, very interesting. Lots of ups and downs. Hopefully the ups are starting to work more than the downs, and we're starting to get our head above water a little bit. So we usually say at this time, faster than you Friday, go out and do something fun, unwind, have a good time, because Monday will come around soon enough, and we'll get back to the battles as it is of that. But enjoy your weekend. Have a great time. Take it away, Sean.
All right, Roy. Have a good weekend.
You got it. We'll see you on Monday.
Bye now.
Shut off the heat generator.